Professional sports offer wealth that's just beyond our wildest imagination. We see the private jets, the diamond-encrusted watches, the sprawling luxury mansions. But right behind those stadium floodlights and the social media flexes lies a terrifying reality. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're investigating a financial mystery that has literally haunted professional sports for over a decade. We are digging into the exact reasons why the world's most gifted athletes are losing absolutely everything. Okay, let's kick things off with a number that has echoed through the sports world for years: 78%. You've probably heard it. A famous 2009 report claimed that a staggering 78% of NFL players go broke or face severe financial distress within just 2 years of retiring. Let that sink in for a second. 8 out of 10 multimillionaires completely wiped out in the time it takes to finish a master's degree. But listen, this financial curse absolutely doesn't stop at American football. It translates directly to the world's most popular sport, too. According to a 2023 study by the French Players Union, which is backed up by extensive academic research from Dr. Matteo Balliao with the University of Antwerp, an alarming 50% of professional footballers face financial ruin or really serious difficulties shortly after hanging up their boots. Half of them. Which brings us to the ultimate, mind-boggling question. How does a player making £500,000 every single week end up with a bank balance of exactly zero? How does immense generational wealth just vanish into thin air? Well, to understand this, we have to uncover the 4 massive traps that are basically laid out for these athletes. Let's walk through them.
Trap number 1, the short-lived income spike.
Here's the thing. Footballers don't get rich slowly. Their wealth just explodes, literally overnight. But unlike a normal 40-year career where your income climbs gradually and peaks right before retirement, a professional athlete's entire fortune is crammed into a terrifyingly brief window. The median football career at the top level lasts maybe 8 to 10 years. In the NFL, it's just 3.5 years. But when you're 22 and the money feels absolutely infinite, you aren't really budgeting for when you're 35. And that reality leads directly to extreme lifestyle inflation. The peer pressure inside a professional locker room is just brutal. As one university study highlighted, young players step into a room full of established millionaires and feel this intense pressure to prove they belong. So what do? They buy the Range Rover on finance, the designer gear, the luxury watches. They establish a lifestyle that is super easy to scale up, but almost impossible to scale down once that 8-year career abruptly ends. But here's the crazy part. Blowing money on a flashy car is a terrible idea, for sure. But it is actually nothing compared to what happens when the biggest financial threats are sitting right at your own dinner table. I mean, what happens when the enemy has a key to your house? Which leads us to trap 2, the leeches. Sudden massive wealth acts like a giant magnet. These players basically become walking ATMs for their inner circle. You've got agents taking massive percentages. You've got fake financial advisors pushing high-risk, completely terrible investments. But honestly, the hardest strain usually comes from family and friends. The sources show that around 40% of surveyed players provide significant financial support to their extended family. For players coming from really tough backgrounds, the cultural pressure to be the sole provider for dozens of people is just an unbearable weight. If you say no, you're seen as a traitor. If you say yes, well, you go bankrupt. And the academic data totally backs this up. In Dr. Balliau's study of professional players, the number 1 cited reason for financial difficulties, coming in at 63%, was high expenses related to personal life. That was followed closely by poor financial planning. The math simply breaks down when one single income is trying to fund 20 different lives. Just imagine the psychological toll of that for a second. You're isolated, you have strict curfews, you can't just go out like a normal 20-something, and literally everyone you know is asking you for cash. So what do players actually do when that pressure becomes just too much to handle?
Welcome to Trap 3, the breaking point.
Crushing anxiety combined with extreme boredom on away trips, that quickly manifests into highly destructive coping mechanisms. When you can't go down to the local pub without making front-page news, you stay in the hotel room and you pull out your phone. Gambling is an incredibly insidious threat in professional sports. The exact same competitive drive that makes them elite athletes translates into a highly dangerous appetite for risk off the pitch. Take former Manchester United and Newcastle winger Keith Gillespie, for example. He lost an estimated £7.2 million to bookmakers. Paul Merson lost $7 million. It's a devastatingly fast way to just vaporize millions in cash. And man, if the casino doesn't get them, the family courts often will. The sources make it super clear that high divorce rates act as an absolute assassination of wealth for retired players.
Former Arsenal defender Emmanuel Ibue is a tragic, high-profile example of this. He amassed an estimated fortune of £20 million during his absolute peak, but following a very costly, messy divorce, he reportedly ended up literally hiding from bailiffs, unable to even afford a TV subscription to watch his old team play.
It really is heartbreaking. But what if I told you that the biggest threat to a player's fortune isn't the bookmaker, it isn't the entourage, and it isn't an ex-spouse? What if the real danger is the very system they operate within?
Trap 4. The invisible drain.
This is the trap that destroys fortunes quietly, entirely in the background. It all comes down to a total lack of financial literacy stacked up against a highly complex tax system. A lot of players are bleeding money because they're paying top-tier personal tax rates, like 45% in the UK. Meanwhile, financially literate players, or at least those with proper vetted advisors, protect their wealth by routing their sponsorship and image rights income through corporate structures, which are taxed at much lower corporate rates. The players going broke aren't necessarily the ones earning less. They're the ones who just don't understand how to structure what they keep.
The reality of these systems is honestly almost hard to believe. In some jurisdictions, the tax laws are so incredibly convoluted that agents' fees are taxed as a benefit in kind to the player. Literally, the player pays their agent millions, and then the government taxes the player on the money the agent received. It's a devastating double taxation trap. Without a solid financial education, a player's bank account is essentially a leaking bucket.
Okay, so we've seen the rampant lifestyle inflation, the leeches, the hidden addictions, the invisible tax drains. If all of these traps are constantly snapping shut all around them, is that terrifying 78% bankruptcy statistic we open with actually the whole truth?
Let's uncover the myth and the truth. That massive 78% number, yeah, it's actually largely a myth. It originally came from a 2009 sports magazine article that had zero formal academic study behind it. When economists at the National Bureau of Economic Research actually pulled the real hard bankruptcy records for NFL players, they found the true number was about 15.7% over 12 years, so about 1 in 6. So we can cross out the 78%. But let's be absolutely crystal clear here. 1 in 6 is still a devastating, staggering reality. These are literally some of the highest paid human beings on planet Earth, and nearly 16% of them still end up with absolutely nothing.
And that brings us to our final, overarching truth of this whole explainer. Money doesn't fix a money problem, knowledge does. The real danger for these athletes isn't just buying a luxury car. The ultimate trap is the delusion that the short-lived income spike will last forever. You might be able to out-earn bad spending habits for a few years, but you definitely can't out-earn them for a lifetime.
Understanding how to navigate a sudden, massive influx of cash isn't just a sports problem, right? It's a huge lesson in financial literacy that all of us can learn from. It really leaves us asking, in a system literally designed to extract wealth at every turn, who is actually profiting off the world's greatest talents? If you want to dive deeper into the exact corporate structures and investment strategies the smartest athletes use to protect their wealth and make sure they never go broke, you absolutely need to hit that subscribe button right now. We've got a brilliant breakdown coming up next. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.